Hey there, friends. Welcome back to A Mother's Journey to Holistic Health and Healing. And I believe this is episode 9. Yeah, episode 9. And as always, thank you so much for tuning in and listening today. Really appreciate you taking the time, not just for tuning in, but, for yourself as well, because this is a time for you that you're taking away for your own well-being and growth and learning and curiosity. So thank you for joining in. In today's episode, I am getting into the top reasons, and this is something that not only have I experienced in my own personal life, but also with the many hundreds and hundreds of people and women that I've worked with over the course of my work, past 13 years, on why you are having trouble sticking with a quote-unquote exercise routine or regimen. So if this is you, if you're a busy mom and you have really had ups and downs, roller coaster rides with your exercise, you go through periods where you do and then you don't. And then, or maybe it's like, maybe you might be on track for a couple of weeks and then something throws you off, life happens, and then you go a couple months and then you come back on. Or whatever the case may be in your circumstances, in your own life, I'm going to talk about some of the things that I often see on how this can throw you off, and what you can do to help you start making it a regular, consistent part of your life. Right? All right, so let's get right into it. So first of all, I feel like a good place to start when getting into this was just really thinking about, first of all, the intention, your mindset around what you would consider or believe or think to be about exercise, just the word exercise in general. So, and your intention behind it, right? So if you can, or maybe save this for a later time when you have a chance, if you've got a paper and pen, write out exercise. What does exercise mean to me? So maybe the first words that come up off of the top of your head that you see, what words come to mind when you think of exercise? And just start making a list. What things come to your mind? Just write them down. Or if you're not able to write them down, just take a mental note. So just kind of look at that list that you have, that when you think of exercise or those thoughts that you have, what comes to mind? And see if that ties into your intention. So what is your intention? What is your honest intention? Be honest with yourself for engaging in exercise. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to think about that. What is your intention to engage in exercise? So for me, if you need more time to, hit pause and take some more time on that. But I'm just going to share my personal experience. And if you've, if you've heard sorry. If you heard episode 1 and 2, I dive a little bit into how exercise for a long time, and I'm talking about at least a good 10, 15 years, I'm pretty sure at least 15 years. Exercise, the only means for exercise was to A, burn quote unquote the fat, B, lose the weight on the scale, look quote unquote better in a swimsuit or in certain clothing. And remember, this is all before I became a mom, okay? My work with this really started when I had my son. So my circumstances were a lot different back then. What else? So none of it really applied to health and wanting to do exercise for my health in general, right? Of course, back then I didn't know anything about exercise for mental health. Maybe I had heard some stuff about it as I was learning going through college. But like that saying by Maya Angelou, when we know better, we do better. We start to become more aware and conscious. And so, but before that, those were the main reasons, my intention, right? As to why I exercised. But don't get me wrong, the first year that I had my son, the first couple months, I was still, intentionally trying to lose the baby weight. I was trying to get back to a pre-pregnancy look, trying to fit back in my old clothes. Again, nothing wrong with that. But it did put a lot of pressure, and it took away the main reason, or I guess I should say now, how I compare it to now, it took away positive, from me being able to have a positive, healthy, intuitive relationship with exercise. Okay, so those were my intentions. That's why I used to do it. So what were my activities? What did they look like back then? Well, it was a lot of high intense exercise, a lot of cardio, sprints, very heavy on my nervous system, lots of weight training, CrossFit. What else? I would just say a lot of very high intense workouts. I hadn't gotten too much into yoga back at that time. But even when I did start doing yoga and I was pregnant with my son, it was still intense. It was intense types of yoga. So it was like things like what we call, like you do those heated classes, the vinyasa, Ashtanga yoga, which is like a 90-minute practice. So it was still, my intentions were still kind of mixed. I didn't have a clear reason or clear intention as to why I was doing this. I was just something I had always done. But maybe for you, it's different, right? So the first thing, as I mentioned, is, when you think of exercise, what were all those words that came to you? What were all those thoughts that come to you? And what is your intention? Because the reason why I asked that is because that could be something that could be a barrier as to why you may be unable to stick with the routine. It could maybe be having some kind of pressure on you. Or maybe it's not aligning with your current circumstances right now in your current season of your life. Maybe unrealistic, very high expectations, right? So when you can get clear on your intention, an intention that aligns with the real true reason of why you'd like to move your body deep down inside, it's there. You may not know it yet, but it's there. And more intuitive approach to movement, then it becomes a little bit more freeing, and you can choose exercises and activity from a place of more like intuition, something that feels good in your body, something that is enjoyable, that's fun, that doesn't seem like work or a chore, or like something you have to quote unquote have to do. You can have a different perspective, a different mindset over it. So the first thing I would say is really pay attention to how is your mindset around exercise, and what has your intention always been? And maybe do you need to change? You need to do some mindset work around how you think and feel about exercise, and maybe have a shift on your intention. So I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. A lot of times I have to work with my clients on changing their mindset around exercise. So let's say, for example, they fixated on exercise as only a means to lose weight. They were never taught about how the benefits that it could have on our mental health, our emotional health, how it could even be in touch with our spiritual health as well. And that was just mainly their intention. So there was a lot of pressure behind it, or a lot of shame if they didn't stick to it or didn't engage in it. So you can kind of see how whatever kind of thoughts they might have had, like I've got to exercise to lose weight, the pressure that might have if they don't quote unquote stick with it or are unable to, especially when life happens or tough circumstances arise, or they're not like following the plan or whatnot. So that's why I say that sometimes I do a lot of mindset work with my clients so that way they can start to think about exercise differently in a way that's going to benefit them, so that way they are starting to do the work, because your thoughts impact your actions, give you an emotion which impact your actions and the results that you get. So if they're thinking, oh, I don't want to exercise, or I don't feel like it, or I don't have the energy, or I don't have the time, or I have to exercise to lose weight, and it's going to cause some unhelpful, unproductive emotions, something like maybe it's not motivating, maybe it's feeling like pressured, or just not feeling up to doing it, right? Then that is going to lead to you not doing anything at all. Or if you're like in indecisive mode and you're like, I don't know what kind of exercise to do, and I just don't do anything at all, for how long or what to do, then the end result is nothing changes and nothing happens. And then you kind of go in like this like spiral, this cycle, right? So that would be number one. That's something that I see a lot. That's something that I had to do a lot of work on with myself. Okay. In addition to exploring other types of movements and just really doing a lot of mindset work and intentional work with paying attention to activities that I didn't used to consider quote unquote exercise, and then how I felt in my body. For example, playing with my son, sports with him, going on walks. It could be simple as like playing tag, things that back then I didn't consider to be quote unquote exercise. But of course now I do, because yes, it does count, right? So things like that, okay? Even cleaning in the house, like you're doing hardcore, like washing the car or gardening or yard work or vacuuming, mopping, like all of that takes a lot of hard work and activity, and that counts. So again, that's something I do a lot of work on with my clients, is working on improving their relationship and their mindset around activity. So that could be a big roadblocker for a lot of people. The second thing is all or nothing thinking, which kind of ties into the mindset piece. But in all or nothing thinking, right, it's kind of like, well, I didn't do it this week, or I didn't do it today, so then why should I even do it, right? Why even keep doing it? Which often happens and can stem from, especially if you have a history of dieting, like if you're trying to do an extreme changes on your diet, or follow a certain plan, you're like, oh, I didn't follow my diet today, so just forget it, like just throwing out the window, like the whole day is ruined or whatnot, right? But instead, if we can shift it to thinking as to, and I always tell my clients this, something is better than nothing, right? It's like something I try to engrave in their mind. Something is better than nothing. It's about progress, not perfection. Those are thoughts that I try to help them see, to them to kind of get comfortable with saying 5 minutes counts, or like 10 minutes, like what, because I often get that, what's 5 minutes going to do, or what's 10 minutes going to do, because they are already tied to that intention or that belief that they have to exercise blank amount of minutes to lose weight, right? So you can kind of see that if they think that for a long time and they're like, what's 5 minutes going to do? It's because they're probably still having thoughts of what's 5 minutes going to do? It's not going to help me lose weight, right? But again, we're trying to reframe the intention, the thoughts around it, so that way you start rebuilding a different belief, different ways of thinking and feeling about activity. And so you're also doing some inner work here, right? In your mind. And that also impacts how you feel. So I'll give you an example. A client that I'm currently working with, she had a really hard time trying to establish a regular activity regimen. And for her, running and weights was something she would do to help her lose weight if she was really trying to lose weight, or burn, quote unquote, the fat, or build muscle tone or anything like that. She would often tell me that when she would start to engage in it, or she would prior to that have thoughts like, I don't want to do this, I don't feel like it, or it doesn't even work, I spend this much time and I don't see results. So, and then that led to just little by little not doing it because she didn't feel it energetically and emotionally to actually do it. And so what we did is we worked on building small steps. Well, first of all, we worked on her mindset, how she felt and thought about it, and her intention shifted to more of like, it's for my health. It's so that way I can have lower my cholesterol, improve my blood sugar. I can have more energy. I be able to, have more energy to play with my son, or some of the other things that she mentioned. Oh, it helped me with my mood because she had often had a lot of anxiety and some depression. And so she realized that when she was active, it helped her with all of those things. So we shifted towards that being the intention. So you can kind of see the shift, right? It's a bit more positive. And so we started by setting small goals like 5 minutes for a walk, X amount of days out of the week, 10 minutes, whatever. We set a specific goal that might seemed very minimal to her, but that she felt confident in doing. So it really challenges the brain, and you're thinking like, what's that going to do? That's not enough, right? I should be doing more. But it really starts with just the foundation to building the habit, and at the same time reframing how we think and feel about it. So little by little, as she started to make that more of a habit, and she started feeling better and noticing the benefits of it, not just physically in her energy, but also mentally in her mood and emotionally, and her focus and clarity and work. And little by little, she has been able to really challenge that all or nothing mindset. So whenever it would come up for her, she would say, no, I have 5 minutes, I have 10 minutes, this is better than nothing at all. Right? So I really encourage you to be more conscious and catch that. Does that come up for you? How can you shift and reframe those thoughts when it's telling you, I don't have time for this. I don't have 5 minutes. That's not going to do me any good. All or nothing thinking. Number 3 I have is another reason that you may be having a hard time with sticking to your exercise routine is perfectionism. Another mindset blocker. You think that it has to look a certain way for it to count, like I mentioned earlier, right? So maybe you think that it should be in a gym or in a yoga studio, or you have to have like this little complete workout space or home gym, right? For it to be quote unquote perfect or right, or that the kids might have to be completely asleep, or you need to go out somewhere to do it, right? So again, working on your mindset around that and finding strategies to help you overcome that and work through that. So maybe instead it could be something like, well, the kids are here. I only have a few minutes. What could I do? Could I do a video on YouTube? If you have resources and things at home, like a bike or a jump rope or something to maybe the kids, maybe you want to get them involved and have like a dance party, maybe work on the yard work together, right? So again, letting go with that idea that it has to look a certain way for it to quote unquote count. So watch those thoughts as well. See if you can kind of tune in to seeing how when you're engaging in activities like dancing, playing sports with your kids, or just tag, or cleaning, or doing yard work, washing the car, going for a walk, even if it's a gentle walk or a gentle type of movement, it doesn't have to be vigorous for it to be count or lengthy, right? So notice the ways of thinking you have around that. See how you can let go of some of that perfectionism around exercise. And maybe even changing the word from exercise to movement or physical activity, right? See how that feels in your body, if that resonates at all. And then number 4, time management. A lot of moms, we feel like there's just not enough time to spend on exercise. Again, I encourage you, start small. Something is better than nothing. Let go of those high expectations of when before you had the kids and you had countless minutes and hours to spend. Okay. Focus on your current circumstance. What do you have time for with all that's going around you? Is it 5 minutes, 10 minutes in small increments throughout your day? I'll share an example, right? I'm always tied to to calls or to Zoom client meetings. They could be up to an hour long, 20 minutes to an hour long. Sometimes they can be back to back. Sometimes I'll utilize my standing desk and kind of walk in place. Sometimes if I have some time in between calls, I'll do some gentle stretches. I will maybe do a little bit light weights or dance and move to a song or do some bodyweight exercises. It really just depends on how I feel, what I have time for. And if my son's here, or if it's a weekend, or my girls are awake and I don't have any support or anyone to watch the kids, then I get them involved. So then that's when we have our dance party, or we go outside and we're active out at the park, climbing on the playground or playing some kind of game. We make it fun, we make it interactive. And I'm sure that will depend for you as far as like the ages of your children. Some moms, I know that I've worked with clients that I've worked with, they will do a quick little weight routine while their kids are playing or doing something, homework, or while their food is cooking in the oven or the air fryer or something like that. So what I do is we work together. I work together with my client to really look in their day and seeing, where is this time you are spending your energy aside from like the big priorities of work? Or if you're a stay-at-home mom, right? That's like nonstop, of course. But we see like, where is there space in your day like that you might be spending some unnecessary energy towards? For instance, is it like scrolling on social media or on the internet, reading or looking up some kinds of things that you don't really need to be doing? Or maybe are you spending a little more time on a project that maybe you could actually spend a little bit less time and then towards movement? So like if you have a project that you're like decluttering a room or reorganizing something and you notice you're spending like an hour or two on that, could you make it a little bit less to make room for some exercise, right? So I work really closely with my clients to look at their day and get really detailed about where could we fit this small time in that you feel confident in doing and realistic. If it's walking, maybe it's like they drive to the mailbox, but they could walk to the mailbox and back. Maybe it's parking farther in the grocery store instead of like finding the closest parking spot, taking more time in the store, right? So utilizing whatever time you have to your advantage and seeing how we can find a small gaps throughout your day to incorporate some movement. And when there's no like intentional movement, well, how can we get it in when you're with your kids or your family, but in an where it's not pressure, where you're not feeling pressured, but it's more like out of fun. Okay. So that's another one, is that time management piece. That's what I often hear is, I don't have time. No, you see about where you can have time. Where can you have time? Where are you spending energy that doesn't need to be spent? And can you maybe decrease some of that time and spend it towards some type of movement and engagement activity to moving your body more? The fifth one would be, now, is the movement fulfilling for you? Do you enjoy it? Or are you forcing yourself or pushing yourself to do exercise that doesn't feel good in your body? That is a big one I often see and hear. We think if, again, weight loss or changing something about our body or burning the fat or what, etc., we think that by having to do all these types of cardio, these HIIT workouts, this weight training program, like that it has to be hard and tough in order to get the result that we want. But if we're starting off with that already mindset, that's not going to help at all, because we're thinking, oh, this is too hard. Oh, I can't do this. Well, you've got to build the foundation. And if you do enjoy weights and you do enjoy HIIT workouts, and that's cool, that's awesome. But again, take into account and notice how you feel and your thoughts around that. And do you have to force yourself? So if you don't like to run, but you're only doing it because you feel like it's going to help the way your legs look, or for example, or if you're only doing weights because fill in the blank, like What else benefits can you get from it if you still really truly want to do that movement? What else, how else can you think about it in a more positive, more productive way? And are you trying to maybe engage in different activities? Yeah, yes, they may be more gentle, but do you think you could get more fulfillment and joy out of them? Example, dance, right? I have a lot of clients that love to dance, yet they don't do it because either A, they're just a busy mama, they don't think about it, it's not on their mind. But once they start doing it, they start having fun, they start feeling good in their body. They do it a bit more and more and more. And they get their kids involved. For me, yoga is a big intuitive movement. I'm in this season of my life right now where a lot of movement that I do, it's more gentle. It's fulfilling, but it's more gentle. So this looks like for me more walks, more like fun sports with my son, yoga. That's a lot of my movement right now. I'll maybe have 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes max to doing some weights. And I do it because I know that it's going to help me keep my bones strong, my muscles strong. And I need my strength for my kids, for my son and my baby girls, because they are getting bigger and heavier. So that's why I do it, right? Of course, all the other health benefits and mental health benefits, but pay attention, notice to how you feel. What do you get out of it? Is it going out for a bike ride? Did you used to really enjoy bike rides, but you just don't do it anymore? Maybe you don't have a bike anymore. And you notice that you like being outside more. Or maybe you like those spin classes. You like the competitiveness of it, or you like the music and, just getting lost in the music while you exercise, right? So is it fulfilling? Are you making it fulfilling and enjoyable for yourself? Or do you feel like you have to force yourself into doing it? So you can kind of see from these 5 things, like it's really just increasing your self-awareness around how you think about it, what your intention is, how is all or nothing thinking impacting your actions towards it, perfectionism, like are any of these barriers, the time management part, where are you spending energy and time that doesn't need to be spent? Do you need to call on support to help you? Maybe like a family member or a friend, if you want to get away for like your own time to go out for a walk or just to, really get away. Some people like to go to the gyms and some don't, it just depends on what you enjoy, what makes you feel good and supported. And then again, is it fulfilling to you? Does it give you a sense of, I'm so glad I did that. I feel so good. Or I feel much stronger. Or I feel so much better. Or I have more energy. Or what a relief. Or, that felt so good. And you don't always have to sweat. Okay? You don't have to get a sweat out of it. So see if you can really tune into how you feel. How it makes you feel. Because that is a really huge indicator to your intuition, to your soul, as to what you actually really truly enjoy. And when you enjoy something and it's a certain activity, you're much more likely to stick with it. And the research is there to support that, right? Obviously, if you don't like something, you're not going to stick with it. Same thing with a certain food. If you're like forcing yourself to eat a certain food, is that going to be sustainable for the long term? Most of the time, it's not. So, of course, the seasons are going to change. Circumstances are going to pop up and happen. You're going to get sidetracked. But if you can really work on some of these things and focus on something's better than nothing, and figuring out what type of movement could benefit you for whatever circumstance you're experiencing in life, whether it's something stressful or it's a busy season, like summertime when the kids are off, which will probably be a lot more work activity together. Sometimes we just have to accept as it is, and what can I do that's within my control? How can I get support? What do I need? What do I have time for? What am I able to do? Right? So that way we can start seeing it from a place of like what's possible, what you can do, what you have time for, versus a scarcity mindset. I don't have time. I can't do it when the kids are here. Right? So it's all about making it a more positive relationship with activity, with movement. Your intention matters. How you feel about it matters. Because that's going to shape your value towards how important it is to you. Right? How important is it for you to be active, physically active? Everybody will have a different reason. For some people, it's not that important, and then it becomes important once they get labs telling that their cholesterol's high, that they're at risk for getting diabetes, that it's going to help them improve their PCOS symptom, that it's going to help them improve their chances of getting pregnant, that it's going to help them with their mental health, etc. So eventually it becomes important to you for a reason that is in alignment with values to you that are more sustainable and that will continue for the long term because they are important to you. They become a priority and you find a way to make it work in your day because you understand, you feel the importance of it. So I hope that makes sense. I hope that's landing with you. If not, that is totally okay. Maybe another time it will. But think about, what is your intention? Why is it important to me to be physically active? This is a really great, powerful exercise. And then, am I doing things that are fulfilling for me? Activities that are fulfilling for me? Do I have to force myself to do certain things? If there is a red flag there, and the answer is, yeah, I have to push myself, or that doesn't feel good in my body, or I have to force myself, or I'm not getting fulfillment out of it, there's a red flag there. That just means there has to be some work done around that. All right, friends. Well, I hope that has been helpful for you today. And please, I will share again that my door is open. I am accepting one-to-one clients for wellness coaching. And you can message me on Instagram. You can email me. You can click a link in the description to, book a call with me if you like. And we can talk about how, what you're struggling, what you're going through, and how I could help you. Also, if you are enjoying the podcast, I'd really appreciate it if you share it on your stories or if you post a review. It'll really help the podcast grow if you want to share it with somebody to help others that you think it might resonate with as well. All right, friends, thank you so much for listening and take care. I'll see you next time.